Marriage Today presents Indestructible Communication by Jimmy Evans.
So let me talk now about the 5 elements of indestructible communication in marriage. Number 1 is the right tone. The tone of what you're saying is everything in communication. So I'm going to say the same thing in 3 different ways. Okay? I'm going to say exactly the same thing, but I'm going to say it 3 ways. Here's what I'm going to say. Okay, I understand, I'll do it. Okay, I understand, I'll do it. So here's my first way I'm going to say it. Okay, I understand, I'll do it. Here's the second way I'm going to say it. Okay, I understand, I'll do it. Here's the third way. Okay, understand, I'll do that. You can say exactly the same thing, but your spouse is hearing an attitude behind it. The tone of what we say is everything in communication. So we have to watch our tone. Tone communicates care, number 1. Listen, if you don't care, it's game, set, and match. It is impossible to communicate at the higher levels with a person who doesn't care. And tone tells you if I care or not. If I care, I say, okay, I understand, I'll do it. And what I'm trying to say is, honey, I care. You know, you're trying to tell me something here. Listen, I care. You can see it on my face. You can hear it in the tone of my voice. Care is everything. Listen, I married you because I love you and I care about you. And even if I don't feel that way, it matters to me because you feel that way. Karen used to say this to me. She would say, I wish I could record the way you talk and hear you and play it back for you to listen to. And you would realize the way you raise your voice and the way you talk to me. And she would say that to me and I would say, well, that's stupid. I don't do that. Just like that. And I mean, I really thought to myself, I don't do that. And I look back on that and think, it's exactly, I was only upsetting her. My response is, your tone is either going to upset her or comfort her. Let me say this now. Women, they know where you are. And they know when you're not there. If you're checked out, if you're at work, if you're off doing something else, if you're checked out, you can be sitting right next to them physically. They know where you are. And when they ask you, where are you? And they're trying to connect, and your tone is one of frustration and anger, and your tone is sending signals of insecurity to her. Tone is the first thing we have to watch to communicate. Number 2 is enough time. You have to have enough time to communicate. It's essential. You just can't microwave relationships and conversations. So let me talk about 3 types of communication in marriage, and I want to be very specific about the time involved. And the number 1 type of communication is proactive communication time. Okay. And this is something that we didn't do at all when we got married. And I'm not going to talk a lot about vision retreats because I talk about it in my seminars. It is a transforming thing if you've never done it. But proactive communication time means talking before you fight. Agreeing so that you don't have disagreements in your relationship. And let me quantify this and say 3 to 5 days a year. You need to dedicate on your calendar 3 to 5 days a year where you proactively communicate. Karen and I just finished another vision retreat. After 38 years of marriage, we still do vision retreats. It's a critical part of our relationship. And where we always start is where we have tension. You're either going to be proactive or reactive. And when you're not communicating proactively, you'll react all year long. You're reacting to money. You're reacting to the kids. You're reacting about sex. You're reacting about housework. You're just reacting. Why? Because you never sit down and agree. The Bible says, can 2 walk together unless they first agree? The answer is no. It demands a no response. Unless you first sit down and agree, how are you going to walk together? Where are you going? How fast are you going to go? Who are you going to go with? I mean, you've never even agreed. And so I am saying to you, you need enough time to do this. Now, It's not a financial issue. If you can't afford to go away to, Karen and I stayed in some really crummy hotels and stuff We would borrow people's lake houses. We would go places that were free, go camping for 3 or 5 days, borrow somebody's trailer, pull behind your truck. Do anything you can at the budget you have without children, by yourselves. You take 3 to 5 days a year and you do a vision retreat and you don't come away until you've talked about everything. Now listen, let me ask you this question, and I think I know the answer. What would you rather have? 40 hours of difficult conversation that leads to a resolve and peace, or 40 weeks of fighting about the same issue? And it won't take you 40 hours, I can just tell you that right now. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have 40 days of proactive communication or 40 years of a mediocre marriage? Think about it. And I'm telling you right now, proactive communication, sitting down and agreeing about important issues. Don't fight about your money and fight about kids and fight about that stuff all year long. Sit down and have a vision retreat. Make it every year inviolable. We're taking this time, and that is our time to do a vision retreat, whether you do it all at once or you do it a couple times a year on weekends or something like that. Here's the second type of communication. It's personal communication. And again, I want to give you a time frame for this. It's 30 to 60 minutes a day. This is every day. Every day you need to be talking. And it's just talking. You're talking about the kids, you're talking about your day, you're talking about your feelings. We both talk on the telephone, we text, we email, we do all those things. It has a place and a time, but not our time and not our place. There's a sacred time that we spend communicating every single day, and at least 30 to 60 minutes a day. If you can't do it, I'm telling you something's wrong. Here's the third communication type. It's intimate communication time. This is intimate. This is something that we're going to physically show affection. We're going to verbally show affection. We're going to whisper sweet nothings in each other's ear. We're going to goo-goo on each other. We're going to tell each other how much we love each other for 5 to 10 minutes a day. 5 to 10 minutes a day. Transform your relationship. Is just stop. Karen will be walking by, and I'll just grab her. Just pull her. And just hold her. And she'll do the same thing to me. And so I love you. And terms of endearment. Without sex and without fun, marriage is a business relationship, and it's the worst business relationship on earth. If you're not sharing affection, if you're not enjoying the relationship, what is it about? Just going through the motions and paying bills and raising kids and all that? Don't let your marriage become like that. Is show affection. 5 to 10 minutes, just say every day, how much affection have I shown my spouse? Let me say, one of the most important things we do for our spouse is build their self-esteem. It's one of the most important things that we do. When your spouse cannot get your attention, when your spouse does not get affection from you, and men need affection just as much as women, whether they realize it or not. You need to walk up to your spouse and hug them and talk to them and use terms of endearment with them, laying in bed in the morning, laying in bed at night, walking through the house, sitting in the house, wherever it might be, for 5 to 10 minutes a day. These are time. So, everything I said right there, you can do it in an hour a day, 30 minutes to an hour a day, and take 3 to 5 days a year. There's this old saying that if the devil can't get in front of you and stop you, he gets behind you and pushes you too fast. And that's what I see in our society today. People going 100 miles an hour and losing everything that's important to them. And there comes a point in time that less is more. I just have too much happening in my life. Here's some of the overcoming the challenges. Train your children to respect your relationship. Train your children, just like I just said. Don't let your children intrude on your lives all the time. Some people say, we've got 3 or 4 kids at home. We don't have time for that kind of stuff. Well, you're not training your children properly. You put your children to bed at night, and you teach them, say, listen, you had your time. We gave you 3 or 4 good hours to take care of you and put you to bed. Now you stay in that bed, don't get up. We'll get you stuff to read. Don't watch television, don't talk. You sit there in that bed and read, and we're going to be over here. And Mom and Dad, this is our time. And you're going to do 2 very important things for them. Number 1 is you're going to protect your relationship from constant intrusion. And the second thing you're going to do is model a good marriage to them. But if your children are controlling your marriage, it's not healthy for them or for you. Change your priorities. If you don't have time with each other, your priorities are wrong. You need to give something up. You need to give up a friend. You need to come home early from work. You need to give up a sport, something like that. You cannot afford not to communicate. Eliminate distractions. Plan it. And just plan times to sit down and talk. Plan these times out. And it's such good. Just make it a discipline. It's just something that's going to happen. We're not going to leave this thing to luck or fate. We're going to talk every day. We're going to have a vision retreat every year. We're going to put it on our calendar. So time. Here's number 3, is an atmosphere of trust. You have to build an atmosphere of trust. I'm going to go through this very quickly, not because it's not important, but because I want to get to the 4th point here in just a minute. You have to give your spouse the right to complain in marriage. Your spouse will not build trust for you unless they know they can complain and keep their dignity. Controllers will make you pay a price for saying it the way you feel. That's control. In other words, I will teach you to fear me, and I don't want to hear the wrong things. I only want you to say things on this frequency, and if you say something I don't like, you're going to pay a price for it every time. That's when you lose the trust in the relationship. And this is the way I was. I was dominant, and I was verbally abusive. And I would begin to lash out at Karen and teach her, you're not going to win the argument. You know, I can talk better than you can talk, and I can last longer than you can last. You're not going to win the argument. We had no intimacy in our marriage. Our marriage was terrible. Okay? Here's the opposite of that. I want to know how you feel because I want to please you. I may not understand it. I may not agree with it. But I'll respect it, and you'll never have to pay a price for saying it. If you think my breath stinks, if you think I'm not a good husband, if you think that I'm not meeting your needs, it may hurt, but I promise you will not lose your dignity in the process. And whenever you allow your spouse the right to complain, it builds trust. Over and over, they come back to you and say, honey, can I just tell you how it makes me feel when you don't take the trash out, when you don't help around, when you talk to me like that? And you say, well, I'm sorry. Have I been doing that? As opposed to saying, I haven't been doing that. You're just petty and you're just jealous because and you lash out at them and you teach them. A lot of people who come to marriage counseling, they tell us what the problem is, and we say, have you told your spouse that? And they say, I would never tell them that. I'd pay a huge price. They don't let me say stuff like that. The truth doesn't go away. You just bottle it up, and it creates problems. So in conflict, I'm going to let you approach me, and you're not going to pay a price for it. That creates trust. Confidentiality means 2 things. What I know about you stays in this marriage, and I will never share it with a family member or a friend, and I'll never use it against you in conflict. It shatters the trust of a relationship. No one knows more about you than your spouse. And if it becomes a weapon in wartime, it's worse than anything. If you tell your friends about it, and sometimes men and women both can do this, but what's between Karen and I is sacred. And if Karen knows, in other words, we're sitting there talking and we're having intimate conversation, and all of a sudden this trust develops and the Holy of Holies opens up, and I begin to tell you about my fears, about my hurts, about my temptations, about this and this, about my failures and all these kind of things. The Holy of Holies opens up, and now we're getting into self-revelation, and all of a sudden you take that information, and 3 weeks from now you get mad at me, and you begin to talk about it among your family members and tell people, and you begin to use it against me and say, well, you told me the other day you're afraid of clowns. What kind of a manly man's, and I'm not afraid of clowns. And, and all of a sudden, all that trust that was built in order for us to be able to open our hearts and talk, here we go. I'm not opening the doors to you again. It's too hurtful for you to take what I'm saying privately and share it somewhere else. Here's number 4, essential in communication. It's an atmosphere of truth, and truth is critical. Now let me spend some time here, and let me say, Ephesians 4:15 says, speaking the truth in love, we may grow up in all things into Him who is the head. Speaking the truth in love. The Bible says that Jesus was full of grace and truth, and this is a balance. Truth without grace is mean, and grace without truth is meaningless. You have to have both in order to grow in your marriage relationship. And here's just some truths about truth in marriage. Number one, relationships without conflict are not as satisfying as those that have conflict but resolve it. This is what research proves. If you never fight in your marriage, okay, because you never talk to each other about the things that really matter, your marriage satisfaction will drop. You don't need to fight as in hostile, warlike fights, but you have to tell the truth. And sometimes the truth is unpleasant. I mean, sometimes the truth means, I feel negative right now. I'm hurt right now, and I need to talk about it. But if you avoid the truth, your marriage satisfaction will drop. The second thing is, where truth is spoken without love, it destroys the trust. You may have truth in your relationship, but it has to be seasoned with a spirit of grace. But here's the other thing that I want you to hear me say. The truth that we need to speak in marriage is not eternal biblical truth. It's my truth. When I'm telling Karen something, and this is the difference between complaining and criticizing. Criticizing is wrong, because criticizing points its finger and says, you know something, you said this to me yesterday and I know why you said it. You said it because you're evil. You're trying to get back at me for what I did the day before. You're so petty. Criticism is all about you. It's negative, and the judge and jury have met, and I'm giving you the verdict right now. I don't need to hear anything except a confession, and if you confess, I'll go light on you. It's just this horrible sense that I've been attacked, I've been painted with the wrong brush, there's nothing I can do about it. Complaining is completely different, because complaining has nothing to do with you, it has to do with me. You said this yesterday? I have no idea what you meant by it. You probably didn't mean anything by it at all, but it hurt my feelings. And I'm not saying that you meant to hurt my feelings. I'm telling you, it hurt my feelings. And I just want to talk about it. You don't feel threatened. You don't feel judged. Because I didn't say anything about you. I said something about me. You said this. You probably didn't mean what I took by it. I just need to complain. Okay? It's not truth. It's my truth. I'm not telling you this is true. I'm simply telling you it's true for me. I'm going to tell you my truth and tell you how I feel, and we're going to talk about it. And all truth has to be preceded by grace. Research proves the first 3 minutes of a conversation dictate the conversation. A conversation never rises above the level of the first 3 minutes. So when I'm telling you the truth, here's the way I'm going to tell you the truth. I love you. I love you. We're a team. God put us together for a reason, and I'm committed to our relationship. And I want to tell you how I feel. And I've been frustrated. I feel like you're not helping around the house the way that you should, that you used to. I've told you, how it makes me feel. And so I just want to talk about it. I know you're busy. I know you've got your own issues. I'm not accusing you of anything. I know you love me. I know you love our family. And I love you. But I want to talk about this. Will you allow your spouse the right to be honest and to complain with you, or are you threatened by that? And I want to say something. If you're threatened by the truth, you're not in your marriage for the right reasons. And you're selfish. You only want what you want, but you really don't want to please your spouse. And you really don't want a win-win marriage. You only want what you want. If I'm trying to be a good husband, how can I be a good husband unless I listen to what Karen says? And I'm not talking about trying to intimidate her where she makes me feel like a good husband even though she doesn't really believe it. I'm talking about an honest relationship. I heard a man, so I was at a men's retreat one time, and I heard a guy say something that really changed me. I mean, it impacted me till this day. And he said, every man needs to sit down with his wife over a cup of coffee and say to her, tell me what's wrong with me. And he said, if you can't do that, you're not a man. And I thought, ouch. Because I couldn't do it. When he said that, I thought, I wouldn't do that. She'd tell me. But that was what was wrong with our marriage. We didn't have truth in our relationship. Accept the absolute need for truth. Commit to being truthful. Allow your spouse the right to be truthful without paying a price for it. Even though it may be hard for you to process. It doesn't mean you have to lay down and play dead. It just means I'm going to let you be truthful. And here's number 5. We'll close with this. It's a team spirit. You can fight about it, you can accuse each other, you can reject each other, or you can sit there and be a team and say, you know, you're a great center, I'm a great quarterback. You're a great end, I'm a great halfback. Isn't it great how God put us together? You know, we're two halves of a whole. We're a team. And being a team means I'm so thankful you're in my life. You're so different than me, and that's what I needed. There's the old saying, if both of you are the same, one of you is unnecessary. God puts you together. And when you honor each other and when you respect your need for each other in a conversation, an example of that is a lot of times Karen and I will sit down and I'll say, Karen, I really need your opinion on this. Or she'll come to me and say, Jimmy, I really need your input on this because I just know there's some things I'm not good at. There's some things that she's fantastic at. When you become a team and you respect each other, your communication is going to be fantastic.